Welcome to the ICL Round 2. We have the Lorcana Loungers versus Flower Farm. We're just going to get right into it. Players have already started their mulligan. Cran from Loungers will be going first. He inks a go-go to play out a lady on turn 1. Tomas, you play this deck a lot. What are you thinking about in these early turns?
Typically, game one, if you're on the play, especially, something like this where we don't know the matchup, starting with these more than two willpower characters is really important just to, avoid accidentally getting it picked off by a fire the cannons or whatever. This lady in particular is one of your most kind of standard openers. Not only does it dodge that fire the cannons, it can threaten to quest for a bunch if a tramp follows up, and it's also challenges back. Kind of just your premium turn one play.
Yeah, definitely just a card that anytime I sit across from it, I see that and I'm like, well, that's going to be a major player in this game. I'd like to remove that as soon as possible. So we have a little bit of camera issues. We're going to skip ahead just a little bit. I think they're trying to get the scoreboard working. Oh, there we go. So it looks like we're inking a Tipo, playing a Basel. I think everyone is going to immediately think that is Blurple. Could be green blue depending on if people are playing a little bit wildness and shifting some Basels on himself. Cran starting off
Yeah,
his turn
outside
two.
chance. It's like there is that Basil shift line version floating around, but not nearly as common as most other builds.
Yeah. Here we see Cran on his turn two get a nice filter down with Bobby, discarding a Lilo and playing another 0-4.
That's just some good value right there.
I agree. And it looks like we're getting a free quest in with that lady. If we're playing against Blurple, they're going to look to be ramping on turn 2. You saw that Tipo going into the Inkwell, so it's pretty safe to assume that he has it. And there isn't much to punish a 0-3 questing for 1 in that deck.
Yeah, the only thing you're potentially worried about there is a hypnotic strength follow up, but at that point, depending what the rest of Kran's hand is, just delaying that ramp turn by one is usually worth trading off a character.
100%. See a Tipo coming in, getting up to that 3 ink, getting into 4 ink for the next turn, looking to play a 4 drop, looking for those genies, looking for those Iagos, maybe even a Dumbo.
Yeah, I'd say like real bread and butter standard openings from both decks so far.
See Cram putting over that lady into the light and playing an Ursula, getting a hit. We're getting the Into the Unknown. That used to be a pretty standard play for a lot of green decks back in the day of Ursula on turn 2, so a lot of people would be a little bit hesitant to keep those songs in their hand, but now with the rotation, it's getting a little bit out of fad to not keep those songs, but also sometimes you just can't afford to not keep those songs.
Yeah, a lot of Emerald decks not even bothering to find room for the Ursula now, so song's as safe as they've ever been.
100%. And we got another free quest in there with the 0-4. Still not much to punish that. If they're playing another Hypnotic Strength on this turn, that means they're not playing a 4 drop.
Yeah, and at this point, pretty much past like turn one, maybe turn two if you're on the play. Uh, the dogs deck is basically only going to take quests that are either absolutely safe, or like we said, it's not much of a punish if they do have the answer, because you want to keep as many characters in play as you can, at least until you find that tramp.
100%. Looks like we're going into the tank a little bit with this turn 3. Playing out the Dumbo. As a Blurple player, I'd say that this is one of the least liked turn 3s, but we saw the hand there. We didn't have a Genie or an Iago. So playing out that Dumbo, getting the ability to draw some cards the next turn, because it looks like we're going to need to dig for those removal spells to deal with this tramp and this lady here. It looks like Cran is starting to build up a pretty big board.
Yeah, and hitting that Into the Unknown with the Ursula, this is a matchup where you're not really looking for that Ursula too hard, but you'll take the free value when it hits. And that Into the Unknown is one of the only clean ways for this deck to answer the 7-drop tramp. So that might be a little tough to remove.
Important to note here that on the discard from the first tramp, we see another tramp coming down. I believe that is not super normal. We usually like to see the tramp chain into the tramp, so I'm assuming that Cran's hand is pretty stacked.
Oh yeah, that's the best part about this card is like you play it, you get to look at a whole bunch of cards, and you just choose. In this case, you get to keep two. Basically, just taking the two best cards out of that top four and gearing up for next turn.
Yep. And here on the Blurple side, we see that Dumbo activate his ability, get a draw, get a lore, and play another Dumbo. So it looks like we're still trying to make that board wide, look for some answers, and hope that Cram doesn't go any further.
Yeah, I mean, until we get up to 7, 8 ink, kind of
Ooh,
that
and
area.
like we said, the stacked hand, that is an
Ooh,
Emerald Chromacon and a full quest out from Cran. Emerald Chromacon says what, Tomas?
whenever one of your characters is banished on your opponent's turn, you get to return a chosen character to its player's hand. So notably, it's not just opposing characters, even though typically, you'll use it to kind of mitigate how many challenges your opponent can do. But we could even see it here, potentially picking up like a damaged Nala or a Tramp. A lot of uses there, and it's just a headache for your opponent to play around.
Yeah, any sort of extra thinking that we can give to our opponents is usually wanted for us. It just gives them more time to make incorrect decisions or even just flounder a little bit. Here we see the hypnotic strength coming in on the Dumbo, I believe, making him swing for up to 5. I believe he quest with that Basil. Looks like so that Dumbo's probably up to challenging 7, so he can take out that tramp.
Yeah, and this, just a real clear example of how nice it was to get rid of that into the unknown instead of just a clean answer on the tramp. We're having to devote the support and a hypnotic strength.
Yep.
See, very very quickly we'll see just how much work this Chromacon can do. Cran gets plenty of options here, and especially a deck like Blurple where a lot of your cards cost 4, 5, 6, 7 ink. If any of them get returned, it's going to cost most of your turn to replay them.
Yeah. And important from Cran's opponent here, questing with the Dumbo, or I believe he might have activated the Dumbo before challenging with the other Dumbo. So in case that Dumbo is returned to his hand, he got a little bit of value out of it.
Yeah, and this is definitely something you'll see more experienced players doing, just making sure you're getting the value out of the cards that you can, even if it might be a situation where you're not expecting the card to get bounced. Just making sure you're not leaving that value on the table is really important.
Looks like there's a little bit of something going on here. So I'm going to move forward just a little bit. There might be a judge call happening. Oop, there goes Cran's opponent's screen. All right, so it looks like we're coming back, and yeah, so it looks like his opponent's screen just froze. That Dumbo was definitely the target. Looks like he inked the Dumbo and is now playing a genie.
And then we still have this Tipo left, but especially with that support from the Basil used up, there's not much for him to do besides just put a lone damage counter on a lady.
Yep, and that would eventually be able to be removed by either the Basil or the Genie. And here with Cran, lower cards in hand, he starts out with that Lilo that he discarded on turn 1, playing it for 2 ink before he draws a card. What are your thoughts about this card in this deck?
Well, and I think with this play especially, he brought that back really fast. Regardless of how the rest of this turn goes, Cran knows, it's time to, hit the gas. That Lilo really likes to come back at the most inopportune times for your opponent. You're already turning, 3, 4, 5 cards sideways, and that's just another annoying body to deal with.
We both know Cran. Cran is one to take value wherever he can, so it looks like he put out that improvise on the Bobby to take out the Tipo, and then use that Ursula to take out the Basil for a little bit of extra extra challenge value. And then we go down for 1 lore. Are we going for 2? We're going for 2.
Oh yeah, I think besides those challenges, pretty much everything is going to be questing as much as it can. But when you get a effectively free trade like that, even not just Cran, everyone is happy to take those.
Yep. And especially when you're playing the Chromacon deck, being able to shave down their board to make every decision as tough as possible. So it looks like we have a monster going to the ink here. I believe his opponent is at 7, so probably a Hades coming down. Hades taking out that Lilo,
See.
making sure he doesn't get any other value.
Yeah, definitely. It feels pretty good when your opponent invests 7 ink and a card on the Hades, and it's just taking out a Lilo that you discarded to your Bobby on
Yeah.
turn 2.
There's another Into the Unknown.
Yeah, this
Very,
one.
very slowly shaving down Cran's board here.
Yeah, and especially the just the back-to-back, inkwell effects, getting around that Chromicon, kind of trying to keep Cran's board sort of under a critical mass.
Now, importantly here, we see the Dumbo go back to hand, but now with only 2 cards left on his opponent's board, it starts to get to a point where is that Hades actually going to be bounced back with the Chromicon in a turn or two? Now here we see a Tramp coming down. We're going to be discarding 3, and that looks to be 3 1-drops. We'll see what else Cran does.
I mean, it is definitely possible. You don't always want to give the Hades back just because it does come down and take out another character, but if your opponent's spending the entire turn doing that, it's letting you quest for 3 or 4 lore there. You're sometimes more than happy to take that trade.
Cran turning sideways, going to 13, and it looks like he's passing. So we see 2 ink face up on Cran's board, passing after a Tramp. What are you thinking as the Blurple player here as to what that card might be?
I'm thinking that card is probably pretty dang good. Like you mentioned, we saw him discard 3 1-drops, and between the Hades and the Into the Unknown, he's already gotten himself up to 6 ink. So this could be a more expensive play, something like potentially another Chromicon or a Go Go, even just a 5-drop lady without the shift. Just getting some cards back here is going to be really strong. So, as the opponent, I'm not sure, what the card is going to be, but I know one way or another, it's not going to be good for me.
Yeah. Now it looks like we're going to challenge with the Hades here, taking out that Ursula. We'll see what Cran decides to do with that bounce, putting back the Hades. Sorry, the Genie. Looks like we're just trying to get more. Oh, the Bell coming in, putting the damage from the Hades down to the Bobby. Still taking out 2 cards, so it looks like he was pretty fine with losing that Genie for the turn. But we're getting to a point where Cran is getting up to 15 to 16 lore in the next turn or two. Might need to be chaining some else's here to get us back in it.
Yeah, this is always a really scary spot to be. Honestly, from either side of the dog deck, you get to this kind of 15 lore range, and oh, it was a lady.
Yep. Lady being
This
a
is
4-4.
exactly what
Yep,
happens.
being a
You
4-4,
get
grabbing 2 1-drops back.
get low on board, and suddenly one card off the top or kept off the Tramp, and you're bringing back a whole parade of 5 or 6 additional lore.
Yeah, that Tramp turning in from a filter 3 to a draw 3 at this point.
Oh yeah. Now the Daisy looks like it was a pretty easy bring back. Probably the only thing there that quest for more than 1 guaranteed, and then just bringing back the lady for some extra value.
Getting up to 16 now, and with that board, we currently are threatening 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lore. So we're gonna need to do a lot of work here to get this game underway.
Yeah, and at this point, Blurple gets put into a pickle like this pretty often in this matchup. We saw the Monstro inked, but even if it was still in hand, it's coming down. The ready effect wouldn't matter because it's only taken out 1 before it would get bounced.
Yeah, and we're just
And
saying
that looks like it's
scoop.
going to be enough.
Braden's favorite thing in the world is scoop earlier in the round, so we get to move to game 2 and hopefully take it there. Now, what are you thinking as a Blorple player playing a Dogs player now that you get to be on the play? What are you looking to mulligan for?
Oh, I mean, even before the mulligan, I'm just thinking, okay, that was the game on the play. That's the one they're supposed to win. Now it's my turn. Definitely those 1-drops are going to be really impactful. Like we saw, with the Basil, just it being in play, at least gave Cran pause, if he was able to quest or not with his first 1-drop. But any of the one drops like this Rafiki here, just being able to threaten and not let Cran get some free lore is already going to be what you want to see. So I mean, ideally, one drops, ramp, some stuff that can challenge, all good stuff.
Are you looking to keep any of those into the unknowns?
Man, I don't know. It's kind of hit or miss. Like there's only the four Ursulas, and a lot of times this deck is playing a lot of uninkables. They might just have to ink it, or they might not draw it.
Yeah.
Depending on what your hand looks like, you might have to keep it and just hope they don't take it away.
Very important on Cran's side is his turn one ink was a Basel 7 drop, and a lot of people like to say that this deck is find Basel 7 drop or lose. So as soon as you see that Basel 7 drop go into the ink, you're either thinking they might have uninkable issues or they definitely have a second one coming.
We see, another one drop going to the ink, especially after the big tramp gets inked
Ooh,
there. You have to imagine his hand
that is
probably
a
stacked with even more ones.
that is a pretty crazy trade right there. Being able to drop the lady and the
Oh
tramp being
man,
dropped for one because we played the lady, and then letting the Pluto take out that Rafiki that was quested last turn.
yeah, that's always Kranos probably licking his lips when he was getting to make that challenge. Whenever you're able to sort of sneak a trade that you otherwise aren't representing, it's always going to be a good time for this deck. And only a Tipo on board basically got to do it all for free because we just played a Dumbo. We weren't able to challenge back into that Pluto.
Making a second go here for a lady. And I believe that is a Pluto tap in for a tramp on turn 3. Wow.
Oh yeah, that's the power of Pluto is with his good boy ability, effectively acting as two characters for the tramp discount, lets you do these early tramps on the play. Sometimes you still have to hold back just based on like sheer number of cards in hand, but being on the draw, uh, when you're when you're able to put this together, it always feels great, especially against a deck like Blurple where they're not going to have much to punish this for probably another turn or two.
Yep. We see the Lilo going to the discard as well as an Under the Sea, one of the big control cards that this deck plays. However, maybe not necessarily into this matchup, and requesting for 3 here because that lady gets a lore if there's another tramp on board.
Oh yeah, just getting your lore where you can. Um, like we mentioned in the last game, the Dumbo on four always a little bit of an awkward play from Blurple when it's what you have to make. But in this spot specifically, I mean, it does dodge the Under the Sea. If we just saw a genie here, we had the potential for a pretty big blowout if he just held back and was able to sing it. But it doesn't look like it's going to be the case this game. We might see Dumbo finally get in for some challenges without immediately being bounced back, though.
Yep, that Dumbo definitely being able to take out, threatening the either the Pluto or the Lady or the Tramp. All three of them gets to take his pick here. Cran is just throwing stuff sideways now with 2 cards in hand. We'll see what happens. Taking out the Pluto. Ooh, no, he's just activating Dumbo's ability.
It's like we're fishing for a little bit more, player recognizing that this Dumbo going on a one challenge per turn for the rest of this game probably isn't going to be enough, and we got to find a little bit more
Well,
action.
there's a Into the Unknown. I believe he took out the Lady there.
Speaking of action,
That is an action. True.
yeah, gonna take out the lady there. Unfortunately, the big tramp hasn't turned sideways yet, so just cutting off as many potential shift targets and two questers, kind of your main game plan. So getting a bit of both there always a good thing.
Yep. The Fruits of the Labor, getting the Lilo into the discard, being played very immediately by Cran here, getting to untap with the 2 lore that he turned sideways last turn. And now we're looking to play another Chromacon. There it is, and looks like we're turning sideways for 2, 4, 5. Oh no, we're challenging with the Tramp. You get those value when you can. And then we're going to lore for 4.
Yeah, and the Tipo putting the damage on the Pluto was definitely threatening another challenge there, and just getting to take it off the board always nice because at this point, if the Dumbo's just swinging into the Pluto, it almost feels a bit wasted. And Franz, have you noticed seems like the dog players, they always have this
They
Chromacon. I
always
don't know
have the
what your
Chromacon,
experience
man.
is.
It's
When I don't
just
have it,
always
I
there.
top deck it.
It's just
We
always
just
there. I
always
think
find it.
I've come up with just a predisposition to, if I see something to kill um in green yellow before the chromacon comes down, I try to take the opportunity. But we do have the second into the unknown for that tramp, and that is going to be instrumental in potentially bringing this game back.
Oh yeah, definitely helpful there, letting the Dumbo get that trade without going back. Uh, Notably though, this Blurple deck loves ramping so much. It's helping Cran ramp as well. He's at the same ink as Blurple, so this dog deck kind of built to work on just 2 ink for most of the game. Sometimes you can get up to some pretty nutty plays when you have triple that amount.
I mean, yeah, here we're playing a 7 cost for a 3 for 3, and then we have 3 more ink to work with.
Yeah, whatever card is kept off this
Ooh,
tramp
shifting
needs
a
to come
lady.
down immediately. Well, that is backbreaking here. Let's see what he wants to pick up. This one drop
Ursula.
lady, always kind of free, and then the Ursula just to really make sure there's not another Into the Unknown or Second Star to the Right. Just any songs that might get us back in this game.
Here we go for 6 going to 13. We are currently threatening to 20 next turn. And our opponent has, I believe, just a few cards left. Knowing that Cran has the Lady and the Ursula, it is tough when Blurple has to look at Chromacon and only 2 cards on board for 2 or 3 straight turns.
Yeah, this is always a tough situation to be in. And it looks like card in hand isn't going to be enough, so we're drawing another one off the Dumbo before we send in this TikTok. See what the bounce is with the Chromacon. That makes sense. Just, send back the most expensive thing. Kind of tends to do the job.
All right, we are mulling through our options here. I believe we're currently still at 5 ink. Can go up to 6.
5 ink. Yeah, they haven't inked for the turn.
Getting back that Dumbo with the Madam Elephant, typically for those purple steel, amber steel matchups. But being able to move damage at the beginning of your turn isn't that bad against this. But it was a little bit too slow, a little bit too narrow of a board. Cran comes away with the 2-0. Loungers go up 1-0. And next, let me move over here. We have Christy from Team Loungers versus Christian from the Flower Garden. Oh, looks like we must have missed a turn 1 ink from Christie's opponent. It was a Donald. So you see green.
Yeah, see green, see the Donald. Current format, expecting that's basically always going to be blue green, right?
If I see that Donald, I'm thinking blue green for sure. But too bad we have red green here playing down. I believe that's the Singer 4 power line. Some very interesting things happening in this game already.
Oh yeah.
Now, Tomas, when you see that power line that can sing a up to 4 cost song, and you're on the draw here, you're seeing this from the blind. What songs are you thinking about in that moment?
Yeah, and honestly, I guess it just depends how much you've played against this card. If I am not experienced against it, first thought maybe just like a Mother Knows Best, but we do have some Ruby songs that we don't see quite as often, like Be King Undisputed, and especially on the play where your opponent doesn't get as much time to put some stuff out. If you're singing that on turn 3, sometimes it'll really slow down your opponent's development.
Yeah, and especially as a Blurple player, when you're playing one jump ahead instead of a Tipo, that Be King Undisputed can really start to threaten your bigger bigger dudes that you're trying to ramp into, especially since you're only playing one card a turn usually.
Yeah, and even if it is just taking out something small, even the one drops are usually just coming out one at a time. So just keeping the board clear so the power line singing doesn't get punished. It's just all gravy there. I think those are probably the two main songs, but we'll see. There might be some further spice once we get some more potential singers in play.
And going back to those generally blue green cards, we see the 3-drop Clarabelle coming in to draw a card, even up that card advantage from the first second. And there is Mother Knows Best putting back that little dude back to Christie's hand while developing the Clarabelle. It's pretty good. Turn 3, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, definitely a tempo play there. Using Mother Knows Best to bounce a one drop, not always what you're looking to hit with it, but going into the 4 ink turn out of Blurple, usually they're looking to play a 4 drop there. So, unless this guard goes to the Inkwell, it might be a few turns before Chris even has a good spot to get it back in play.
Yep. And pretty important from the green red players that the next power line shifts for 4, so we can come out and find a power line next turn, and who knows what happens then.
Oh yeah, I mean, just from these two characters in play, we're threatening the possibility of the power line shift on 4, a potential Clarabelle shift on 5, and we've only seen these two cards in play, and that's already two potential bombs that Christie has to keep in mind.
And there's one of the Clarabelles. Ooh, playing the Donald Duck here, not opting not to go for the shift if they have it, going for some more draw. And here comes the V King Undisputed. Not the punish, but the exact reason why the Mother Knows Best came down last turn, so that the 4-drop that was coming down would be able to be sniped by that V King Undisputed, and then we get a free quest.
Yeah, just a real nice line of let's give you back your one drop. It's okay. You can play your 4. Oh man, darn! Looks like you only have one character in play. It would be a shame if you had to choose that one to banish.
It's definitely one of those things that a rogue-ish tier deck has over some of those other decks, is that some of those other decks, their lines are pretty sturdy and rigid in those early games. So if you're able to come up with a way to punish those lines a little bit more often than other decks can, you can really get a pretty big advantage. And we see that here with 4 lore on the board, 2 potential shifters into a blurple board that has nothing going to turn 4.
Oh yeah, and I mean, especially being on the play with the singers. I mean, even if we were playing with open hands, it's possible Christie's hand just didn't have
Yep.
anything else she could have done. Like these plays might have been effectively locked in, even if she was able to see all the songs in hand.
Very much a do you have it situation, and he did. But it's okay. We have a second Dumbo here.
Yeah, sail into Dumbo. At least if this one gets removed, Chrissy's got the extra ink to hopefully take advantage of these extra cards off the Donald, or at least on a following turn maybe get 2 things in play at a time to potentially play around another Be King Undisputed.
Here comes the Clarabelle. Very important. The Donald Duck Gentleman gives both players an extra draw at the beginning of the user player's turn. Very, very, very generous of him.
Oh yeah, and I mean this is something every every Blurple player should be very familiar with. Spend your time playing one card a turn and feel like you're just starting to get somewhere, and then your opponent shifts the Clarabelle, gets to draw right back up, and suddenly the board that maybe you were about to find an answer for just gets that much harder to crack.
Here we push down 2 lore with that gentleman, and looks like we're playing the Stopped Chaos, the Kolpos special, being able to bounce two characters with 3 or more strength back to their owner's hands. We throw back the Dumbo, and it looks like we're going to get a pretty big payday off that Clarabelle. I believe it looks to be like 4 or 5 cards.
Oh yeah, even that the Stop Chaos just effectively being another Mother Knows Best here is, I'm sure more than enough. Effectively drawing us 2 cards off this Clarabelle, always a good time.
Moving into that 7 ink turn, let's see what Chrissy's going to be able to do with those extra cards.
I mean, here, the kind of Blurple special is just to play a Hades, and we do see it there hitting the Clarabelle, but now, hitting a shift stack like that, you've just ramped your opponent right back up. So any advantage you had on the ink axis is basically equalized right there.
Getting a good
Yeah,
old Bobby.
a full grip here looks to be at least 6, maybe 7 cards. So this Bobby filtering gonna have plenty of options to discard. Spots like this, it's more or less just a draw one effect because I'm sure you look at 6 or 7 cards. There's probably one you're not going to need, like this Under the Sea, that's not going to be able to put Hades down below. We'll see what the follow up is because we got plenty more ink. We got 8 singers worth of characters, all dry and ready to go.
And playing another gentleman. Let's get some more cards out here. We're paying a 3 for another small Clarabelle, and we are still drawing a card. Just putting out a ton of board and then
Yeah,
keeping your hand pretty fresh with those gentlemen's and the Clarabelle.
yeah, and this is going to be pretty tough nut to crack, as it were. Even if Chrissy could choose what cards she had in hand,
Not
it's
turning anything
getting
sideways
to a
here.
point.
Potentially worried about the potential Monstro coming in on turn 8 and taking out a few of his own characters. I think that's pretty heads up play there, playing around that.
Yeah, that would be kind of the main big punish here. Especially when you're putting a bunch of cards back in your opponent's hand, you just give that monster a whole bunch of fuel to ready. And without the characters sideways, Blurple has a really hard time dealing with more than one character a turn. So we'll see how Christie decides to start, potentially paring down this board.
Going into the tank, as we say, to try and crack the nut that is this board state. It's a tough one.
It's always a tough time. Just you're sitting there looking at two Donalds. They're so cute. They're holding up their flower and they're like, "Look, I'm just gonna bring you a gift at the start of my turn. You don't have to worry about me."
Here we see a few characters being put down. Kirsty trying to build a board herself to contest the green red board, and then requesting for 2, practically begging the opponent to turn something sideways.
Yeah, and at this point, it almost doesn't matter what the characters are. Anytime Christie's able to put down more than one turn, it's gonna be a pretty good thing for her.
And
Anytime
here
she's
we
doing something
see
more than just,
the big old
ooh,
boy. The
that is a
the
shift power line
That
there.
is a shift power line. The pride and joy of Ravensburger's streams in the early on of Fabled, it is coming back to you, bouncing out of Iago, and then checking the top 4 for a song. I believe a 9 cost or less song that could potentially be played, and we don't see anything. Nothing.
Oof. I mean, even just putting, one character back in hand, still really good. Notably because of the way Vanish works, the Iago does go back to hand instead of being banished. So if we do end up with, something like a Shift Clarabelle or any of those other effects that care about cards in hand, it's still there.
And it
Oh
looks like
no, another
another
Mother
knows
Knows Best.
best. I believe that's the third this game.
Yeah, I think so. Basically, just telling Chrissy that her last turn was really nice, but we're just gonna hit undo on that one.
Yep. And now at this time, he's pretty much just saying, I don't care about the Monstro. You'll be paying all of your ink and a few of your cards to take out a few of my cards. I'm turning things sideways.
I mean, especially at this point, we have so many characters in play, and just the extra stats from the power line shift. Even if there is a Monstro, won't be able to clear everything single handedly.
I believe Christie takes a little bit of a tank here. Skip ahead just a little bit. Definitely is a tough board to think about from the local player, especially because I believe Christie has a bunch of cards in hand and most likely a lot of options of things to do to chip away at it.
Yeah, definitely going to be a lot of combinations of sequences that you could potentially play here. She's also got to be thinking, these characters have sung a lot. Their voices are starting to get dry and raspy, but there's almost always an encore, right? Like there's probably a follow up here too, and just deciding, what you might not be able to play around. Just gonna add another layer of headache here.
Now it looks like we're inking the Iago and we're throwing down money and calling our opponent poor. Tapping down
Uh,
some cards with Elsa and then challenging with Hades.
Bronze, I think that's an Elsa.
Did I say Elsa? Or did I say Hades?
That doesn't look like a dollar bill to me.
That is indeed not a dollar bill, but that does represent a decent amount of. Anyway,
Bobby's just churning through.
we do still
Like
have
Donald Duck.
a singer here and a shift line if we want to jump up and sing something else.
And even with the Donald exerted, he's got 5 willpower. Not enough for Hades to knock him out alone, so still drawing those 2 extra cards per turn. You have to imagine at this point, with the board being as developed as it is, those extra cards are going to favor the red-green deck quite a bit more than Blurple.
Here we see another B King Undisputed coming down to take out one of those pretty large bodies.
Ugh. Yeah, I mean, Chrissy gets to choose, but either option here is not going to feel great.
No, it does not.
Both of these cards, basically representing a whole turn each, and
There goes
both,
the Elsa.
decent sized bodies, but not anymore.
At this point, we are turning more things sideways and just telling Christy to have an answer every single turn. And that is a large board. Not even be prepared could stop it. Definitely could stop it, but it's not available.
Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine, if you're putting together a Ruby Emerald deck like this has got to be pretty close to exactly how you draw it up, right? You sit down, your opponent inks something that tells you they're probably on Blurple. You look at your hand, you have this start, and you're like, all right, the fun's about to begin.
Only misstep being that power line whiffing off the top 4.
Oh no, that's just a flex right there. Sometimes your power line just needs to tell them, we didn't even need it. It's fine. Christy looks like exerting 5 ink at least, deciding exactly what she wants to do here.
Going
Like
for another
7
7, I believe. Nope, just the scoop maneuver. It's a tough board to crack. We are moving to game 2. Now, as a
Yeah.
Blurple player, seeing some absolutely crazy stuff. What are we thinking going into this mulligan?
I mean, honestly, much like the matchup against Dogs that we just watched, you're probably looking for a 1-drop. Obviously, you're going to be looking for ramp, and then from there, a whole slew of options to potentially answer the board, just depending on what exactly transpires.
Ooh, lost a camera.
Oh,
Camera's back.
oh, we're back. So just depending on what the curve is, I think if we can safely get to about 5 ink, and then we open up our options with like Elsa and Belle and all that stuff, Christy will probably be feeling pretty good. But it might be a rocky road until we get there.
Here we see another song option of Hefflumps, just some important information going forward in this match.
Yeah, and honestly, Christy might be pretty happy to see 1 inked and 1 discarded. Hefflumps is, in this entire format, honestly, one of the cleanest answers we have to a potential Iago, which, depending on what Chrissy's hand looks like, that is sometimes one of the best challengers she's going to have. And notably, starting with the Basil here instead of, I believe she has Guard in the deck instead of Rafiki, as some decks do, those can threaten the Bobby and at least stick around, but this Basil would trade 1-to-1, so it might hold off Bobby for a little bit, but it also might not. Bobby might be just fine taking that trade.
Interesting little play there is we see the inking of a Tipo to play a 1-drop. Could signal some uninkable troubles in Christie's hand, but let's hope that is not the case.
Yeah, it could also just, signal she might have a pretty tight curve. There, might not be time, as it were, to, get that TPO down and sing the one jump. That might just, not be quite as effective with her curve. So just getting the guaranteed ink off the TPO and the hard cast there is, always going to be good. You'll take your ramp however you can get it.
Yep.
We do see that Iago coming down, so thank goodness at least 2 of the Heffalumps are gone.
Yeah.
But
Opponent might be
I'd
kicking
have to
themselves a
imagine
little
there's
bit.
2 more lurking.
2 more in the hand. That'd be crazy.
Let's see. I mean, here we did see the Mother Knows Best as a potential option, just to delay this Iago by a full turn. There's that Be King Undisputed we saw sung in a spot similar to this. So
You're welcome
see
too.
how, ooh. Now, once again, Vanish, not getting rid of this Iago before it goes back in. So
Nope.
he'll be hiding in that deck somewhere. But given Christie 2 fresh cards, especially as you mentioned, the hand might be a little awkward with the inking of the TPO there. This might be exactly what she needs.
Mm-hmm. Definitely leaving that power line a little bit unprotected in case of a potential Elsa. But let's see what else he plays this turn. Might be trying to. Ooh, nope. Just get an extra draw. Saying it's okay if that power line is gone because I have other plays to do. Now we get to see what happens on this next turn. And because of that potential Elsa, we get to throw down that Bobby and say, hey, if you want to trade your Basil for my Bobby and leave my power line alive, that's totally fine with me.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, we have 2 potential shift lines being represented here. So even if the Elsa is there, you always have that little bit of mind game that's like, well, maybe you want to take out the Clarabelle, but maybe the power line shift is going to follow up because that comes down a turn earlier. And so even if Christie does have it here, it might be a bit of a decision to make on where it would actually go. See 5 ink coming out. It is that Elsa. So
Typical Elsa.
Only one character ready, so pretty easy decision on what's getting exerted. But the challenge from here, or potential challenges, might be a little bit harder to figure out.
Notable that actually that power line is only a 3/2, so it doesn't even need that Basil buff to take it out.
Yeah, just a clean bop there. Christie opting to keep this Basil around on her side there. Just kind of potentially signaling that she's got another follow-up answer, or even just
playing around B King.
Potential threat down the road. Yeah, playing around B King, maybe another threat with Hypnotic. Just really not, making it easy to pick off this Elsa.
Even going back to the set 2 days with Lady Tremaine, you're always scared about be prepared into Lady Tremaine. So trying to keep 2 cards on the board is probably the best you can get. Here we see a Bell getting full value out of that Elsa trade from last turn. Very nice. Cutting off those
really big follow-up there.
Yeah, cutting off both of the shift lines very cleanly.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's no evasives on the other side, so this Elsa just gets to start questing for 1.
The reward for Christie's good plays, 1 lore.
Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes you take your 1 lore where you can.
1 lore is 1 lore,
You know how many games I've thrown away on 19?
Oh, I've thrown a lot of games away on 19, that's for sure.
Speaking of 1 lore, Tipo or Bobby here coming in again.
Singing "You're Welcome" on
total.
the Bobby.
Yeah, he did such a good job. Gained 3 lore. Turned into 2 cards. What more could you ask for out of a 1-drop?
He gained 2 lore, right? Because he quested with... No, he did gain 3 lore, you're right. Wow, 3 lore and 2 cards? That's crazy.
Yeah. If my Bobbies could do that all the time, I think I'd have a 100% win rate with dogs.
Man, that's some Diablo stuff going on there.
Oh, we don't talk about that here.
I talk about Diablo. Don't worry about it. I got it.
Ooh, Bobby coming down. Do you think there's a chance it could be the same Bobby? Is this our hero?
Die! Whoa!
Ooh.
I do choose to believe. Oh, we're scooping? We are
It
indeed
looks like
we are indeed
didn't
scooping.
find what we needed. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes,
Hey,
Belle and Elsa in play is more than enough.
yep. Especially on some of these rogue decks, we do know we are seeing that if you don't have it, sometimes you just don't have it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these decks, a lot of the time they're more rogue decks, not necessarily because the power level isn't there, but just a slight bit less consistency. I mean, we saw game one, the curve out was really strong, um, but these decks just not showing up quite as often, just because players are opting for things that are just a hair more consistent, like this Blurple deck. But that doesn't mean that they can't contend.
Yep. Especially with like just in general, like that consistency is a lot very tied to the um just the general card quality in that deck. So you see a lot of decks like this, like we're playing the 3-drop Clarabelle, which represents a shift line, but it also draws a card, gets you closer to your stuff. You play the Bobby to cycle cards. You just have to play a lot of those types of cards. If you don't have the amount of playables that something like Blurple does, that just has like 40 to 58 plus cards that are just like, yeah, I'm just very good. So you for Blurple, you don't have to fill much of the chaff out.
Yeah, and especially when you have a more synergy driven game plan, sometimes, just all the pieces don't come quite together in exactly the way you're looking for, but when they do, you can really knock it out of the park.
Going to Christie's opening turns here, definitely looking to duplicate a little bit what you did last time, which is get your normal curve, keep up the board state from getting B King. Did we see a Wasabi? There's a Wasabi
We did see a Wasabi go to the inkwell. You know,
fighting
Christy saying, I'm gonna guess you have more songs than you have items,
items.
so probably don't need the Wasabi.
Throwing in the text for some of those item decks, I respect it. And here we go
You
again,
have the
though.
the turn two power line.
Yeah, the turn two power line threatening the Mother Knows Best or the B King Undisputed going into the Blurple player's ramp turn. It really does seem to be like a really weird choke point that if you don't have exactly Tipo, it's gonna feel pretty weird.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a fork there.
Oh, missing the ramp happens about one in every what 9 games ish, but here we're seeing it in game three, very important game three. It always seems to happen to me specifically.
Well, luckily for you, but unluckily for Christy, it's happening to her this time. Kind of silver lining, at least we didn't have a one drop to precede this power line, but we once again have the power line into Clarabelle Curve just threatening both shift lines, and Christy not only being on the draw but missing the ramp. Just the threat of those cards existing in hand is gonna put her under a lot of pressure here.
Definitely a bit of a sigh of relief to not see a Mother Knows Best or a B King coming down and really threatening that board. Hopefully, we can potentially get a little bit more either a ramp or another card on board, so that we can threaten a little bit of these cards going into the next few turns.
Well, we see two ink tapped.
That is a
Did
Tipo.
we find the ramp? We did. And like you were saying, notably, it is Tipo and not Sale, so just a little bit extra insurance against a potential B King. Just another body to threaten like a potential hypnotic strength. So a matchup like this, definitely nice having the body on board, even if he is just a cute little 1/2.
All right, going into the potential power line turn. Let's see what happens.
I have to imagine a lot of options probably in this hand. If we do have the shift, obviously, oh, there he is. This could open up even more options depending on what we could potentially hit off the trigger. But I think most songs we're going to be able to sing here.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh, that's an Under the Sea. Not always great against Blurple if they, have a board of like Iago and Hades and that sort of stuff, but we just have some measly 1/2s. they go under the sea.
And here
The
we are whiffing again on the power line shift. That power line is just shifting and singing one card and just passing the turn.
he's just styling, Powerline just really likes to look at 4 cards and put them on the bottom of your deck. He's like, you know what? I under the sea 2 of your cards. Let me put some of mine on the bottom. It's fine. This is, totally even. Definitely
I sure
not ahead at all.
I sure do love playing green blue without playing green blue.
Yeah, I mean, what's better than Under the Sea? And Under the Sea that you can shift and sing without having to put an uninkable Baymax in your deck.
That's true. And you get a quest out of it on turn 4? Wow.
Oh yeah.
Someone call Fungus. Iago coming down here. Hopefully just get it does threaten the power line. I believe that threatens it. Oh, it's almost cleanly. That power line is a 6/4, so they would trade.
Yeah, we'll see. Unfortunately, Christie not able to sneak 1-drop rhinos in her deck without getting disqualified. So it is probably going to be an even trade if we do see it coming out. You know, might be worried about like a Heffalumps or something like that, or even just a Mother Knows Best, either a way to vanish or put back this Iago. But I'd have to imagine out of all the 4-drops, this is probably the one we want to see the most, just because it is the only one that is going to cleanly challenge.
Here comes a B King Undisputed, a very reminiscent of Ruby Amethyst from set 2 on, playing Be Prepared into a Lady Tremaine, a very demoralizing play.
Man. And you always got to know whenever your opponent resolves an effect like this and they're looking at, a few cards and read them, you're like, oh no, they hit at least something.
Yeah,
They're not just going straight to the bottom immediately.
It is important to note that Heffalumps, it does say chosen opposing character, so there are currently no characters on Christie's board, so that card just says draw 1.
It seems pretty good still, I'd have to say.
I would agree with you. Drawing cards in a game like Lorcana, where your hand is your resource, is pretty good.
What Christie can follow up with here, kind of saving grace is we have taken a lot of game actions, but the score is only 2-0, so we do have some game here still to play. See if Christie can claw her way back.
Yeah, and even through all of this, our opponent still only has 2 cards in hand, even though he has that Donald Duck. So if we can find a way to take hold of this board state soon in the next turn or two, very very well could just take over the board, take over this game again.
Oh yeah, but even without seeing what those last 2 cards are, you have to imagine Christie's feeling some pressure. Every time this power line stays in play, it's threatening to get some good value. Every Donald Duck trigger is a potential to find the Clarabelle shift line. Got the Dumbo coming down to at least threaten something. Ooh, we have double shift in play now. Got a lot of singing potential over there if we have the songs for it.
Oh man, another B King Undisputed. It's getting rough out here.
These B Kings are hitting real hard this match, that's for sure.
Yeah. Definitely on the draw Blurple player, being able to get your board up pretty fast and then start to threaten those B Kings for every single move that they do is just really tough.
Yeah, I'll have to remember to go back and ask how he managed to make Christie miss the ramp too. Not physically in the same room, and usually I have to shuffle my Blurple opponent's deck to get them to miss, but I guess we're doing it telepathically here.
Yeah, usually I have to just to look at them very very softly in the eyes and say, "Hey man, I really need you to miss ramp this game," and then they just don't do it anyway. Once again, throwing down some money, calling our opponent poor once again.
Locking down 2 big singers here. This might open up just the window that Christie needs to get back in.
Very important. It is, again, that 6/4, being able to threaten your 4/6 is pretty important. Oh, that's a Clarabelle. I was going to say our Bobby came back again. Oh, of course, right, it's on top of everything. We just throw down a shark like this.
Man. Any one of these big characters is a threat on its own, and now we have, three different angles of attack.
Yeah, that's looking at a Clarabelle, looking at a power line, looking at a Shark, and looking at a Donald as a that's a head scratcher for me.
Yeah, and I mean any answers we do have for the board here, pretty big potential to leave a character exerted for this shark to get in and get his value.
Mm-hmm.
See how Christie navigates from here. Starts with a vision,
Always a good card to
so
play.
hopefully, yeah, hopefully these next five have exactly what she's looking for. Still got 6 ink left and haven't inked for turns.
Like
So
you said,
still
though, it is still
plenty of potential.
it is still pretty low on lore. So if we are able to remove like the shark or the power line and potentially threaten some other stuff, then we can probably still get a hold on this game. It is getting very tight though.
Yeah, you have to imagine this is definitely the turn where Christie feels like it's probably going to be make or break. As we got, those big shift targets are going to be readying after wearing off from that Elsa effect.
That it definitely
We
is.
do have the challenge.
It definitely is the probably about as close to what we wanted as possible, which is getting rid of the power line and the Clarabelle. We are leaving up the Maui, but there is currently nothing sideways for the Maui to eat and get some more value.
Yeah, just the clean trade there.
Oh my gosh.
And
More Mauis.
oh, 2 sharks. They smell blood in the water.
Don't tell me. Oh no! Again.
Oh no!
It's getting real rough. It's getting real rough out here, boys. Is that not like the third? I think it's the third Beaking Undisputed, and it gains 2 lore while doing it too.
Oh my gosh. Well, one thing's for certain. I would say it is not at all disputed who is king at this point. They've gone on for 2 encores now.
These are some very, very, yeah, looks like Christie is throwing down the towel, understanding that those 2 sharks being able to threaten more B-Kings is a bit too much for her to handle at the end of this game. We are moving to game 3 for the Lorcana Loungers. Mute this real quick. Get that back up. Switch back to here. And voila. Going back to game 3, here we have Braden versus Changs. Very important that Braden is on the play.
We'll have to see. Won't say anything here, but whatever we do see, we can and will use against Braden in the next lounge night, I imagine.
Yes, as is foretold, anytime we can make fun of Braden is good times. Specifically when he pulls out his folded phone, and he loves talking about his folded phone specifically.
I gotta be honest. I've heard they're pretty nice.
They do look pretty nice, but I'm always gonna give them crap for it. I'm never gonna admit it. Never.
Oh, that's definitely fair.
Skip forward here to get towards the first parts of the game. Just doing a little bit of sportsmanship here, allowing our opponent who is not in the room to cut the deck in a specific way. All right. So we have a little bit of a spoiler here for Braden's turn 1 being inking a Lilo to play that Aurora. A very powerful play, especially on the play.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You've definitely played more of this deck than I have, but that's pretty much how you want to start every game on the play, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm looking for either Aurora on 1 into one of my 3 drops, or I'm looking for Daisy into Fire the Cannon Daisy.
Right, looks like we do have a 1-drop back out from the other side, so that's usually the start you want to have to at least threaten the Aurora.
Looking into a blue deck, and I get to play Aurora on turn 2. I'm feeling fantastic.
Yeah, we got the bread and butter start, Aurora questing to get this Tiana down on turn 2. Now, we know it's not Blurple, because we've seen Blurple on both sides already, right?
We definitely know it's not Blurple, so it is almost always green-blue, as we see here. We see the Basel, we see a Tipo coming down, and here's where you start to wonder about Baymax, Under the Sea, and a ton of other stuff. Even the Basel shift could potentially come down next turn. So here's where we're looking to either be firing some cannons or strengthening some fires.
Yeah, you have to imagine if Braden does have any sort of that removal in hand, he's almost definitely going to be looking for some play that lets him get that down, right?
Yep. And
The quest with the Tiana means we're not singing; we're just paying one to fire some cannons at a
firing
small child.
firing some cannon, and then playing out a Daisy Duck. This is about exactly where we want to be in this matchup right now.
Yeah, I do have to point out if this were me playing and it's in paper, at this moment, almost assuredly, I've made the sounds bang bang and then quack quack and then looked at my opponent completely serious. I mean, you gotta add the sound effects, right?
Yeah, especially when you're playing against an aggro deck like this, there is a lot of potential tilt factor. So adding any sort of levity is definitely going to help you in your rounds. Ooh, we're seeing the good old Pleakley coming down, as well as another Basel, looking to threaten that Tiana next turn with a potential support and challenge for 3, or
Yeah, and we
another
did
Baymax Under
see
Sea.
we saw the Emerald 4-drop chip go into the Inkwell. As far as I'm aware, that's not the most common card in these decks. I'd imagine, it doesn't do a ton in this matchup, which is probably why we saw it inked. But if you're playing Amber Steel and you see that card inked, is it making you, consider anything else in these games? Or is it just one of those, if they have it at the right time and they sort of get you, you just kind of you
Yeah,
take your lumps when you
I would
have
definitely
to?
say if I see the chip, I'm definitely going to be a little bit more wary about playing hands in a way that leaves me with only dock in hand at the end of my turn. But
Mhm.
also seeing the chip goes into the inkwell is meaning that either he has another chip I'm like, and that's the only thing that punishes me, or he's given up on that line completely in search for shift targets and under the sea, and I can still pretty safely relax.
I do see Brent played a Nala and passed without inking, so looks like there's either a parade of uninkables or just something he really doesn't want to ink here.
Yeah,
Um,
so normally when this happens, I think similar to green yellow dogs. Speaking of, nice Fred. Um,
Love
this
me some Fred.
Yeah, this Amber Steel deck often does play on 2 to 3 ink. Generally not inking up to 3 or 4 until we're either hard playing a Pluto, a Rhino, or playing a 2 drop and a dock at the same time. A lot of times we're stuck a little bit on inkables. So keeping like a Strength of Raging Fire or just a Fire of the Cannons in hand is gonna keep us down at 2 ink, and we're pretty happy to do it because like we're at 11 and we're threatening 14, 15 here.
Yeah, and we did see, from the previous turn, we had the support from the Basil on the Pleakley to be able to knock out that Tiana once we paid to get rid of the reduction. Getting that out of here is nice, but Braden's still going to 14. Is this one of those games where you kind of get to a point like this and you start turning everything sideways and try to get over the finish line before your opponent puts something together?
Yep, definitely looking to either to just turn everything sideways every turn. Hope to get there before Braden can really his opponent can build up an answer, or I'm looking to space it out, maybe with a Pete, maybe with a play of a lady into something after they use a removal spell, or even just
Another
wait.
Nala here.
Yep. Or just waiting for my opponent to use their spells so I can play a dock or something like that. We do see the Aurora take out the Basel. Very important, I think, in a deck like this to take out their Shift Sing Under the Sea lines, so they have just one less out to your boards.
Yeah, we have to imagine at this point getting an under the sea in while we still can is probably going to be one of the main things the green blue deck is looking for here. These Nalas, they quest for quite a bit. Daisy's going to be hard to knock out. Just these 3 cards in play are threatening just just a ton of lore.
And even with the depletely threatening that one Nala, we still are threatening 19 lore, and that's really just like a peat away from just locking the green blue player out of the game. Besides like potentially a Basel or a Hades.
Let's see what the follow up here. Is
Ooh, a
that
chip.
ship coming
That
down?
is a chip.
See what
Braden is
Braden ends up
indeed holding
discarding
some
here.
cards here. So holding that Rhino that we did see him almost ink last turn. Maybe this is one of those things that he explicitly thought of. I think that is a very heads up play, especially if he's holding like a dock plus a plus something else that he might want to play.
Yeah, and I would have to imagine as the opponent, like that's got to signal to you that the rest of the hand is probably pretty strong. Like you said, either keeping an extra card just as discard fodder, or
Yep, there's
maybe
the
keeping
Pete.
ink
There's
for this Pete when he finally comes down.
absolutely. I do wonder though if that green blue player didn't ink that first chip. I wonder if Braden inks that Rhino the turn before.
Yeah, it might have, but unfortunately he did not.
But definitely a heads up play from Braden there, making sure to avoid the chip punishing him, and then just coming in at 19 with a good old Pete.
Yeah, sometimes they might have a Hades or something like that, or a Basil to at least put it back to the hand. But every so often, Pete comes down. You just look at your opponent. You're like, all right, you got it.
Yeah.
They look at their cards and they sigh and they say, nope, it's all actions. Pete gets you there.
And definitely in this specific matchup for Amber Steel specifically, being able to take that first game on the play, a little bit of a sigh of relief because even if game 2 doesn't go as you hope, you still have another game on the play, which is very obviously our most important game, our important aspect of Amber Steel. Now we're looking to just try and stave off those shift lines and get some quests in, while the green blue player is looking to find more of those shift lines and actually remove that Amber Steel player's board before it gets too untenable.
Yeah, so I'd imagine here, most games we're going to see. I'd assume Braden, looking to get some tempo and sort of get under his opponent, setting up those big shift turns. Is that
Yes.
kind of what you're saying here?
Yeah, we're looking for either some extra fire the cannons in the early game plus some one drops. We're looking for again maybe an Aurora into a Tiana to threaten strength, or maybe we're even looking for, at worst case scenario, a Troubadour into a Lady play a thing on turn 3 to sing a strength and look to remove some of those things. Here we're going for that Aurora, looking to either play that Tiana or threaten a wider board with a free Mulan plus 2 ink.
Yeah, and we have basically the same opening as last game, but play and draw reversed. We might see this potentially having a pretty big impact, right? If the ramp option here is a Tipo, that's
whoa, no
just 2
ramp,
more Basils.
all gas, one drops galore.
This is gonna threaten the Aurora questing a lot harder than the singular Basil we had last game.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what Braden wants to do here.
A very interesting play that coming here for Braden. A lot of things that we can do here. A Pluto coming in. Fire the cannons and a trade and another Aurora. We're essentially just resetting and saying, let's go back to turn 1, except we both have one more ink.
Yeah. I mean, turn worked pretty well in game 1. Braden's like, all right, let's just do it again.
Fire the cannons on those Baymax shift targets are always pretty important.
You have to imagine that might have put his opponent under some pressure here. With these Sapphire decks, until you get something like the Clarabelle shift off, or like you get, the Donald Gentleman in play, you can be a little bit starved on actual cards in hand, and committing that many 1-drops to the board, getting rid of 2 of them might have disrupted the plan here.
Yeah,
we do have the Pleakley to follow up at least.
We're looking at 2 cards in hand, I believe at 4 ink now. And now we're doing what I said last time, just going a little bit more wide with a Mulan and 2 ink, but this time we're at 3 ink, so we get to play an extra daisy too. And we're not even in any threatening, any danger of an Under the Sea coming this turn. So it looks like we might get some quests. Chip coming down, 1 card in hand, it's a dock! Whoa!
Well, we were able to dodge it last game, but this time the chip hitting real big.
It definitely is
now
tough.
Braden just playing off the top.
Playing off the top, that Pleakley is threatening everything except for a daisy on the board. Braden going in with the Nala and the Mulan. I believe passing, a little bit scared of what that daisy can give his opponent.
Yeah, I mean, this Pleakley looks like a hungry guy. Might be chowing down on, up to 3 cards in this game.
Mm-hmm. Right now, the line's looking like that. Chip was 7. Yeah, so we can chip into the Nala, Pleakley into the Mulan. Both survive. This is not an Under the Sea sing together line just yet, but it is threatening that board just the same.
Yeah, I have to imagine at a point like this, Braden, at least in the back of his head, is thinking if they have the shift to Baymax and the Under the Sea, well, they got it.
Well, there is a Tiana there, so taking out the chip here, putting 3 damage on both of those daisies. Now we're still leaving just the Pleakley up, cutting off a potential sing of something. Ooh, and here comes the John Silver. That is a very tough thing for Ember Steel to answer, especially when we're in this low card advantage board state like this.
Yeah, and even the Reckless here not forcing any challenges because we don't have any exerted characters, but just turning off the potential of a quest if that's what Braden wanted to do. I mean, that's effectively slowing him down by
another chip, a chip taking out Braden's last card, and a John Silver threatening that Tiana is definitely enough for Braden to hit that scoop button. I probably would have hit the exact same button.
Yeah, I mean, the fire the cannons are taking out the cards in play, and then the chips are like, not so fast. I can take the cards out of your hand.
Those chips doing a lot of work in this game specifically. It's pretty much just a big old, this is why I play this card. It was that game specifically.
Yeah, I mean, the first game, I was imagining it might not be for this matchup, but the way those 2 chips went to work, maybe this is exactly where we want them.
Yeah, it's a 3-2. Threaten the Nalas. The Amber Steel players typically go for those 1 card left in hand docks a lot of the time. It puts a little bit of pressure onto Braden in this game 3 onto how he wants to configure his hand in those first few plays.
Yeah. Now, if you're in Braden's seat here, like you said, the nice thing about winning game 1 is game 3. If it comes down to it, you get to be on the play, right? Do you're almost always going to be looking for your most aggressive starts being on the play, but with how hard those chips were hitting. Do you think he has room to kind of ease up on the gas a little bit, or is this just
I think
sideways town?
I think even more when we're seeing the chip when we're on the play, we can go gas because he's 1 turn, just a turn slower on playing those chips. And if he wants to play a chip on turn 3, that's before I'm emptying my hand. And if he wants to wait until turn 4 to do it, that's generally when I'm going to be playing my dock anyway. So that chip is probably going to be a little bit lower value in this game. At least from my perspective, I probably wouldn't really change my mulligan strategy.
We do see a develop your brain coming out on turn 1 for green-blue, which you'd have to imagine is not what we're hoping for. This time we don't have the Basil to, at least make him reconsider questing with the Aurora. And we just have the 1-2 right into Tiana.
Mm-hmm.
So far, this is...
Yeah, definitely exactly what Amber Steel wants to see here is no body on turn 1, a sail on turn 2. Mm-hmm. We have our Aurora Tiana. That's the Aurora survived the first quest. So if we have another Aurora or even a Mulan, we're gonna get some pretty heavy value here.
Yeah, well, we do have the ramp at least coming out, so whatever game plan this green blue hand is lending itself to, at least we're going to be able to get to it about as quick as we can.
Seems that Braden's camera froze for just a second. Looks like he is good now. Awesome.
He was busy putting 5 Daisy Ducks in his hand while the camera went black.
It's just like Braden.
I mean, I guess, that's fair, though. Like, if Chip discards one, you still want your playset
Yeah,
to
yeah,
play
of
out.
course, of course. Looks like they're probably talking to the judge, so I'm going to skip forward a little bit. All right, we got our draw for turn going into turn 3. We do have everything available to us at this point, except for using a Fire the Cannons or a Strength on anything. So we're going to be looking to develop as much as possible on this board while we are free before the Under the Seas come.
Yeah, we don't have any characters in play to potentially threaten a shift, so a turn like this, you're pretty much just using it as free range, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking to build as much of a war on board as possible, trying to get to a 2-tap to 20 situation. Here we see a free 1-drop. We're inking a Strength. Very interesting here because that means we are not going to be able to play, threaten a potential shift line next turn. But because our opponent didn't have any characters on board, our opponent playing a shift line next turn doesn't actually matter unless they're playing exactly Clarabelle 1, Clarabelle 3 into Clarabelle 7, Sing Under the Sea.
Yeah, and that's Aurora sticking around, able to get just a bit more value playing a second Aurora for free. You're almost always looking for it to play that Tiana a turn early, but spots like this are where those extra princesses in your deck are really nice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We got to stay on 3 ink, but we got 2 1-drops and a dock in play.
Braden truly is telling the green-blue deck that he is the ramp deck now. Until we play a Pleakley for nothing and just ink twice that turn, we are off to the races as Amber Steel player here. We essentially have 2 free turns of questing at this point. I'm turning everything sideways. I'm playing as much of the board as possible. Who cares if you have a John Silver? I'm questing for 7 or 10.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, when I'm sitting across from Amber Steel, this is usually a spot where I'm hoping that dock just drew like 2 more Fire the Cannons or something.
It often happens.
Oh, and the Daisy not even being generous enough to donate a free card. It's like Braden here just deciding exactly, how much he wants to commit to the board or potentially hold back.
Yep.
Just doing some quick lore math.
So we have going to playing some more things for free, and a Pete just on top of it. I believe this is going to be threatening to 20 next turn. We're at 11. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have exactly 20 next turn, and our opponent cannot play any actions. And we're going into 6 exactly. The only thing right now that I can think of in this archetype that will stop Braden from getting to 20 next turn is exactly a John Silver. Let's see if he has it. He does have it.
You have the John Silver.
So we are threatening only to 18 next turn.
Yeah, notably, John Silver himself not going to be able to sing in Under the Sea without some backup. So even stopping the full 20 there for a turn, probably not going to be enough.
And we got the Strength off the dock too.
My gosh.
That is, oh my gosh, we are. That is. So we get
That's just the maximum rub-in.
Yeah, we get to turn. Oh, and the Under the Sea off the Daisy. Oh my gosh.
And these are some disrespectful ducks.
We get to show the Enchanted Basil to end that game. That is a very unfortunate game from the green blue player. It is hard. It's tough. So
yeah.
we see.
I mean, that's what you bring Amber Steel for, right?
Yes, that's what you bring Amber Steel for. We do see Loungers taking down Flower Farm 2-1. I believe 2 out of 3 games going to 3 games, except for Cran, who is better than everyone in the world, taking someone down 2-0. How do you feel about that game, Tomas?
I mean, games like that are part of the reason why I put down blue green. I don't have the stomach for games like that. I would much rather be the one, playing the Auroras and playing some disrespectful ducks. But I mean, that's sometimes Amber Steel's got it, and it looked like Braden had pretty much everything there.
Yeah, even down to the Pete on his threatening turn, and then just another dock off the top to get him just a few more cards, and even then having the strength to take out the
Oh
John
yeah.
Silver and to stop any other singing possibilities, and still putting it under the seat of the bottom of the deck. It was extremely disrespectful towards that green blue opponent, and I as a lounger would like to apologize to that player for how Braden disrespected you.
Yeah, I mean that's just how Braden is, right? We just kind of all put up with it.
Yeah. Well, Loungers take it down 2-1, advance to 2-0 in the ICL, and we will see you back again next week for some more Tomas and Franz commentary. Anything you want to say,
See you
Tomas?
then. No, I'm all good. I gotta go get my snacks.
All right. See y'all later.